everyone.
Good morning.
Today we will discuss the behaviorism and constructivism. But before that, we will read first the objectives. Everyone, please read.
At the end of the lesson, the learners will be able to discuss the contributions of key theorists in behaviorist psychology, analyze different behaviorist theories, including classical conditioning, connectionism, and operant conditioning, and provide real-life applications of behaviorist principles in learning and behavior modification.
Now let's proceed to introduction. Behaviorism is a psychological theory that focuses on the study of observable and measurable behavior. It emphasizes that behavior is mostly learned through conditioning and reinforcement, rewards and punishment. Unlike cognitive psychology, behaviorism does not prioritize internal mental processes such as thoughts and emotions. The contributions of several key theorists, Pavlov, Watson, Thorndike, and Skinner played a crucial role in shaping behaviorist principles. The main body, Ivan Pavlov, a Russian psychologist, physiologist, is best known for his work in classical conditioning, also referred to as stimulus substitution. His famous experiment with dogs demonstrated how an association between a neutral stimulus and an unconditioned stimulus could create a learned response. So is the this is the Pavlov experiments, the before conditioning, during conditioning and after conditioning. So the before conditioning, the ringing of a bell or neutral stimulus caused no response, while food unconditioned stimulus triggered salivation, the unconditioned response. So a neutral stimulus is something that doesn't naturally cause specific response. So that is the bell, while the unconditioned stimulus is something that naturally and automatically triggers a response without any prior learning. Muna siya ang food. While the unconditioned response is the natural automatic response to the unconditioned stimulus. Muna siya ang salivation. Now, during conditioning, the bell the bell was rung a few seconds before presenting the food. After conditioning, the dog associated the bell with food and began salivating, or the conditioned response, even in the absence of food. So the bell is no longer a neutral. It became a conditioned stimulus kay gina na may association between the bell and the food. Now let's proceed to the key concepts in classical conditioning. First is the stimulus generalization. The dog responded similarly to sounds resembling the original bell. So the dog might start salivating at similar sound, not just the exact bell sound. It's like the dog thinks that any bell sound means
Food.
so the second key concept is the extension. If the bell was rung repeatedly without food, the condition response weakened over time. So if you ring the bell but you don't give the food to the dog for a while, the dog will eventually stop salivating at the bell sound. So it learns that the bell isn't reliable for getting a food. Kay kuan man ka na ang gi-repeat di ba niya ang bell tapos wala
Wala
siya
naghatag food.
So na-weakened ang conditioning. So the third key concept is the spontaneous recovery. Previously extinguished responses could reappear after a period of time. Even after the dog stopped salivating, kaya di ba nag-stop siya salivating sa extension?
Bell.
If you wait a while, then you ring the bell, the dog might suddenly start salivating again. So it's like the dog momentarily forgets it learned that the bell wasn't reliable for food. Nakasagot mo?
Yes.
So the fourth key concept is the discrimination. The dog learned to differentiate between different sounds, responding only to the one associated with food. So you could ring two different bells. If you only give after ringing one specific bell, the dog learns to only salivate at the one bell, ignoring the other. So it learns to tell the differences. Kay, sa isa ka bell, di ba, wa ka naghatag. Then sa isa na pud ka bell, kay naghatag ng food. So kuan sa dog nga, ma-differentiate niya ang kuan sa kung kailan ka maghatag og food. And the last key concept is the higher order conditioning. A second neutral stimulus, such as a light, could be paired with a bell, leading to salivation at the light alone. If I say, if let's say if you flush a light before ringing the bell, eventually the dog might start salivating at the light because the light predicts the bell, which predicts the food.
Mm.
It's like the dog learns a chain of signals. It's a signal like a bell becomes linked with a reward like food, causing a response like kuan katong salivation. So at so it is somehow you were conditioned to associate with a particular object with your teacher. So at present, at present, when you encounter that particular object, you are reminded by your teacher. So that is the example of classical conditioning. Do you understand?
Mm.
Yes. Now let's proceed to Edward D. Thorndike. He introduced the connectionism
Theory.
theory, which laid the foundation for stimulus response or SR psychology. His work emphasized that learning occurs through associations between stimuli and responses, strengthened by repetition and reinforcement. So the theory of Thorndike's on connectionism states that learning has taken place when a strong connection or bond between stimulus and response is formed. So there are three laws of learning in connectionism. First is the law of effect. Behaviorists followed by positive outcomes are strengthened,
Strengthen.
strengthened, while those followed by negative outcomes are
Weaken.
weakened. But Thorndike later on revised this law when he found out that negative rewards do not necessarily weaken bonds, and that some seemingly pleasurable consequences do not necessarily motivate performance of the students.
Students.
And the second law of learning in connectionism is the law of exercise. Repeated stimulus response pairings strengthen the learned behavior. However, without reinforcement, practice alone does not always improve learning. So, in this, practice makes perfect seem to be associated with this. However, like the law of effect, the law of exercise also had a revised when Thorndike found that practice without feedback does not necessarily improve or enhance the performance of the students.
Students.
Do you understand the law of exercise?
Yes.
Now let's proceed to the third law, which is the law of readiness.
Readiness.
Learning is most effective when the learner is motivated and prepared to engage in the response. So when a person is ready to respond to a stimulus and does not made to respond, it becomes annoying to the person. For example, if the teacher says, okay, we will now watch the movie or the stimulus you've been waiting for, and then the suddenly the power goes off, the students will feel frustrated because they were ready to respond to the stimulus or the movie, but was prevented from doing so. Likewise, if the person is not ready at all to respond to a stimuli and it is asked to respond, that also becomes annoying. For instance, the teacher calls a student to stand up and recite, and then the teacher asks a question and expect the students to respond right away when he is still not ready.
Mm.
This will be annoying to the student. So that is why teachers should remember to say the question first and wait for a few seconds before calling on anyone to answer. Do you
Teacher,
understand the
yes.
three laws of learning and connectionism?
Yeah. What are those?
Okay, let's proceed to John B. Watson. Everyone, please read.
He is considered the father of modern behaviorism. He was the first American psychologist to work with Pavlov's ideas. He argued that human emotions and behaviors are primarily learned through conditioning. One of Watson's most controversial experiments involved conditioning a young child known as Little Albert to fear a white rat by associating it with a loud, frightening noise. This experiment demonstrated how emotional responses could be conditioned similarly to physical behaviors, shedding light on the development of fears, phobias, and prejudice.
Are you familiar with the Little Albert?
No.
So, I saw the experiment of Watson. In the beginning, Albert, or the young child, was not afraid of the rat. But because of kuan, Watson made a sudden noise every time na ginatouch niya ang rat gani. Mo to nga kuan ka na ang
Mahadlok siya.
mahadlok na si
Albert.
Albert nga i-touch
Touch
ang
rat.
rat. So mo na ang experiment niya demonstrated daw na how emotional responses could be conditioned similarly to physical behaviors, shedding light on the development of fears, phobias, and prejudice. So in general, no, sa experiment ni Watson kay kung ay wala ka na more na generalize na niya kung ang mga hadlok na siya sa tanan small animals tungod sa kuan kanina experiment.
Experiment.
Sabot mo?
Yes.
Now let's proceed to Borges Frederick Skinner. Everyone please read.
He expanded on behaviorist principles by introducing operant conditioning, which focuses on voluntary behaviors and their consequences. Unlike classical conditioning, operant conditioning relies on reinforcement to shape behavior.
The key concepts in operant conditioning na ay nasa ikuan duha which are the reinforcement and the punishment. In reinforcement, a stimulus that increases the likelihood of a behavior occurring. So nasa two types of reinforcement, which are the positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement. When we say positive reinforcement, it is adding a desirable stimulus to encourage behavior. For example, a teacher gives praise, stickers, or extra points when a student correctly solves a difficult math problem. While the negative reinforcement, it is removing an adversive stimulus to encourage behavior. For example, if students complete their math problems correctly and on time, the teacher reduces their homework load. So, din sa negative, di ba, ang sa positive kay adding, while sa negative kay removing. Nakasabot mo ang differences between the two types of reinforcement?
Yes.
Now, let's proceed to the punishment. Everyone please read.
A consequence that is
Likelihood of behavior occurring. So, nagyan po siya two types no, of punishment, the positive punishment and the negative punishment. So, positive punishment, it is adding an undesirable stimulus to discourage behavior. For example, a student who disrupts the class during math lessons has to stay after school for extra practice, while the negative punishment, it is removing a desirable stimulus to discourage behavior. For example, a student who frequently forgets to do homework loses participation points. Na saktan niyo ang differences between sa positive and negative punishment.
Yes.
Okay. In conclusion, behaviorism primarily focuses on observable behaviors while excluding external thought processes. Pavlov demonstrated classical conditioning, showing how associations between stimuli create learned responses. Thorndike developed the laws of learning, emphasizing reinforcement in shaping behaviors. Watson's research revealed that emotional responses, such as fear, could be conditioned, while Skinner introduced the operant conditioning, highlighting the role of reinforcement and punishment in learning and behavior modification. Behaviorist principles have significant applications in education, therapy, and behavior modification. To promote long-term behavioral improvement, positive reinforcement should be prioritized over punishment. Further research should explore the integration of behaviorism while cognitive psychology to provide a more comprehensive understanding of learning and behavior. Nakasabot mo sa behaviorism?
Yes.
Okay. Now let's proceed to constructivism. But before that, let's read the objectives.
At the end of the lesson, the learners will be able to differentiate individual and social constructivism, highlight the characteristics of constructivist learning, and explore the implications of these theories in education.
Constructivism, closely linked to cognitive psychology, emphasizes personal knowledge construction through experiences. Learners are not passive recipients of knowledge, but active participants in their learning journey. The constructivist approach contrasts with the traditional notion of rote learning, which is more aligned with behaviorism. So the main body. Constructivism, please read everyone.
It is a theory of learning that emphasizes personal knowledge construction through experience. It builds upon cognitive psychology by asserting that knowledge is actively created rather than passively absorbed.
Now, we all know naman, di ba, sa constructivism, it is, it emphasizes personal knowledge construction through experiences. Now, let's proceed to the two views of constructivism. Everyone, please read the first one.
Individual constructivism or cognitive constructivism. Based on John Paget's cognitive development, focuses on how individuals internally construct knowledge, promotes child-centered and discovery learning, where learners independently explore concepts rather than rely on direct instruction.
Discuss naman ni Argel and Miss Gamo about the cognitive development. Also, they believe that the learner should be allowed to discover principles through their own kind of exploration rather than direct instruction by the teacher.
Teacher.
Now let's proceed to the second views. Everyone please read.
Social constructivism.
Rooted and lived by Trotsky's social-cultural theory, emphasizes that knowledge is constructed through social interaction
And shared experiences. Learning is a collaborative process where interaction with peers and teachers helps shape and refine understanding.
So in social constructivism, from the word social, you interact with your peers or your environment or
Co-learners.
surroundings to gain experiences or knowledge. So there are four characteristics of constructivist learning. Everyone, please read the first.
Learners construct their own understanding. Learners are not empty vessels waiting to be filled with knowledge. They actively interpret new knowledge based on their existing knowledge.
Learning is meaningful when
Learning.
it connects to what they already know. Understandable naman, no? They actively interpret the new their lakad nila na information based on their existing knowledge and experiences. Yeah. Now let's proceed to the second characteristic.
New learning depends on prior knowledge. Background knowledge plays a crucial role.
Understanding new information.
Learners use their existing schemas to make sense of new concepts.
Diba sa first characteristic, they construct their own knowledge, ay their own understanding. In here, new learning depends on the prior knowledge. So, nagadepend ang ilahang pagpadali niya sa first, sa din niya para makakuha na, makakuha na ang learners use their existing schemas to make sense of the new concepts. Nakasabot mo?
Mhm.
Now, the third characteristic, everyone.
Kaduha ka second.
Social interaction facilitates learning. Constructivist classrooms foster a community of learners where students collaborate to solve problems and discover concepts. Teachers act as facilitators rather than knowledge dispensers. So here, the teachers act as facilitators rather than direct instruction by the teacher. So they are kung gani ka na ang through their exploration nga para makagain sila of knowledge mga kanang ma-experience with nila. And the last characteristics, everyone please read.
Meaningful learning offers an authentic task. Learning should be applicable to real-life situations. Authentic tasks mirror real-world activities and promote deeper understanding. Example, a 6-year-old creating a checklist of school tasks is more meaningful than simply tracing dotted letters on a worksheet.
So in here, ano siya, kuha ng authentic task rather than traditional, di ba, di ba, sa example, a 6 years old creating a sheet
Check.
list of school tasks is more meaningful than simply tracing dotted letters on
Uh-uh.
a sheet. Nakasagot mo?
Yes.
Okay. In constructivism in math classroom focuses on students actively constructing their own understanding of mathematical concepts through exploration, discussion, and problem solving. Instead of passively receiving information, students engage in hands-on learning, real-world applications, and collaborative activities. Di ba na-tackle ni Mr.
Guminang.
Guminang katong paano problem solving or approach or the project base and so on. In conclusion, constructivism builds on cognitive principles by promoting knowledge construction through experiences rather than passive absorption. It consists of two main perspectives: the individual constructivism, based on Piaget's theory, which emphasizes self-guided discovery, and social constructivism, rooted in Vygotsky's ideas, which highlights the role of social interaction in learning. Constructivist learning is active, depends on prior knowledge, encourages social interaction, and is closely tied to real-world application. To enhance learning, teachers should prioritize exploration and discovery over rote memorization. Incorporate interactive and collaborative activities, and foster peer discussions and shared problem solving. Education should integrate authentic learning experiences that connect to real-world context. Further research should explore the integration of cognitive and constructivist principles to develop more effective teaching strategies. So if you want to learn more about the behaviorism and constructivism, you can visit this